Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going to do a deep dive into today's global news, and big thanks to Alarms.Global for making this deep dive possible.
Yeah, they really make it easy to stay informed without getting overwhelmed, which is what we're all about here, too.
Exactly. So much going on in the world, it's hard to keep up, right?
Okay.
But don't worry, we're going to break it down for you. Tensions are rising in the Middle East, some serious cyber threats are out there, and we might even be seeing a global power shift brewing.
Lots to unpack, so let's dive right in.
All right, first up, the Middle East. Things are escalating quickly, and it's heartbreaking to see the human cost.
Yeah, the situation in Lebanon is especially concerning.
Absolutely. Those Israeli airstrikes in that village, what was it called?
It was a remote village. I don't think they named it specifically.
Right. Well, anyway, 14 people were killed, including women and children. Just devastating.
And it really highlights the indiscriminate nature of these conflicts. Civilians often bear the brunt of the violence.
It's not just Lebanon, right? Gaza is flaring up again, too.
Unfortunately, yes. 4 Israeli soldiers were recently killed, which has further inflamed tensions. It's that tit-for-tat cycle of violence again. Each attack leads to retaliation, and it just keeps escalating.
And now you have a 52-country coalition pushing for an arms embargo on Israel, led by Turkey. They're saying Israel is violating international law, so that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
It's interesting because this coalition isn't just a group of countries with a shared political agenda. There are a lot of different players involved, which shows how much concern there is over Israel's actions.
So what does all of this mean? I mean, are we headed towards a larger conflict?
That's the big question, isn't it? The situation is very volatile, and any further escalation could have serious consequences. A regional war that draws in major powers. Scary thought.
For sure. Okay, so moving from one potential powder keg to another, let's talk about Ukraine and Russia. Germany seems to be getting a little more assertive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Germany's opposition leader, Friedrich Merz, just issued a 24-hour ultimatum to Putin.
Oh, wow, a 24-hour ultimatum. That's pretty bold.
It is. He's threatening to provide Ukraine with long-range missiles if Russia doesn't back down. And you have to remember, Germany has been very hesitant to get involved militarily, especially against Russia, given their history.
Right, so this ultimatum is a major shift for them. I mean, what's changed?
Well, it could be a few things. Maybe they're feeling more pressure from their allies, or maybe they're just increasingly worried about Russia's actions.
That makes sense. And they're not the only ones stepping up, right?
No, you've got countries like Estonia sending more military aid, too. It seems like support for Ukraine is still strong on the international stage.
So this conflict is far from over.
All right, well, let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture, those global power dynamics everyone talks about. There have been some interesting developments this week, starting with the BRICS summit. Modi and Xi Jinping meeting up always makes headlines. Always. And the timing of this particular meeting feels significant. BRICS is this bloc of emerging autonomies, and they're challenging the existing world order, the one that's been dominated by the West for so long.
So we could be seeing the rise of a new global power axis.
It's definitely a possibility. And then there's Modi's 3-nation tour: Nigeria, Brazil, Guyana.
Yeah, the guy doesn't like to stay in one place for too long, does he?
It's a strategic move for sure. He's engaging with key players in Africa and South America, regions that are gaining more and more influence on the world stage, building relationships, fostering economic partnerships, expanding India's global footprint.
Makes sense. And while all this is happening, back in the U.S., Trump just picked a new national security advisor, Rep. Mike Waltz.
Interesting choice.
Right. He's a Green Beret veteran, so, that raises some eyebrows.
Waltz's military background suggests a potential shift towards a more assertive foreign policy, possibly more interventions, a stronger military presence around the world.
Yeah, that's something to watch for sure.
It's like we're all watching this massive game of global chess with all these countries making their moves.
And the stakes are pretty high, right?
Absolutely. It's not just some abstract game. These decisions have real consequences for everyone.
Speaking of real consequences, let's talk about cyber threats. It's something that can seem kind of distant, but It's getting closer to home all the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like that data breach in Romania recently.
Right, the one that kills security.
Yeah, they stole a bunch of personal data, names, IDs, emails, phone numbers, the whole works.
Scary stuff. It's like someone breaking into your house and stealing your most valuable possessions.
Exactly. And it can have serious long-term effects. Identity theft, financial problems, all kinds of headaches you don't want to deal with.
And it seems like these hacktivist groups are getting bolder too.
Oh, for sure.
Like, remember Shadow Defenders in Dead Society?
Yeah, yeah. They're planning to go after governments and corporations in a bunch of countries. India, Israel, the US, Canada, even Sweden.
And their motives can be all over the place, can't they?
Right. It's not always clear cut. Some of them are driven by like political ideology. They want to expose corruption or challenge governments. Others are more about highlighting security flaws. Like they're trying to embarrass these organizations into upping their security game.
And then there's some who just seem to want to create chaos. Right?
Sadly, yeah.
It's unnerving to think that these groups have so much power to disrupt our lives. And then you have things like that terror alert in Thailand.
Right, the one targeting Israeli tourists.
Exactly, especially around the full moon party. It makes you really think twice about traveling.
Yeah, it's serious. The Thai authorities issued a red alert, which means they believe there's a credible threat.
So it's not just about data breaches anymore, it's about actual physical safety.
And it shows how these two worlds, the digital and the physical, are increasingly interconnected.
Okay, so with all these cyber threats looming, what can people do to protect themselves?
Well, it's kind of a constant arms race, but there are definitely steps you can take.
Like what?
Strong passwords are a must. Use a mix of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, symbols.
Right.
And don't use the same password for multiple accounts.
Yeah, that's a rookie mistake.
Two-factor authentication is also super helpful. It adds that extra layer of security.
I mean, it's a bit of a hassle sometimes, but
I know. But it's worth it for the peace of mind. And be careful about what you click on. Don't open emails from people you don't know, and watch out for suspicious links.
So basically, be smart and be proactive.
Exactly. It's a digital jungle out there, but you can stay safe if you're aware of the risks.
Good advice. All right, well, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something else that's been on everyone's minds. Natural disasters. It seems like we're seeing more and more of these catastrophic events.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore.
The Philippines are getting hit by their 5th major storm in just 3 weeks.
And then you have those devastating floods in Peru.
It's a real reminder of the power of nature and how vulnerable we are to it.
And it's not just about the initial impact. The long-term consequences can be even more devastating.
Like what?
Well, damaged infrastructure, economic disruption, and the psychological toll it takes on communities. Rebuilding takes time, resources, and resilience.
The Philippines seem to be really struggling right now. It's just one storm after another.
Their location makes them especially vulnerable to typhoons and severe weather events.
And climate change is a big factor in all of this, isn't it?
Unfortunately, yeah. The frequency and intensity of these storms are increasing, and that's directly linked to climate change.
Okay, so that's a pretty sobering thought.
It is, but it also highlights the importance of disaster preparedness.
Right. We need to be proactive, not just reactive.
Investing in early warning systems, improving infrastructure, empowering communities to take charge of their own risk reduction efforts.
And it's not just natural disasters we're facing, right? There are serious health threats, too.
Yeah, like the air pollution situation in Pakistan. 11 million children are at risk.
11 million. That's just awful.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of everything. Human health, the health of the planet, it's all tied together.
So what can we do about all of this? It feels like a lot to handle.
It is, but knowledge is power. The more we understand these challenges, the better equipped we are to address them.
I don't know about you, but I feel like just listening to all this stuff makes my head spin a little. Conflicts, cyber attacks, natural disasters, and then on top of all that, the global power dynamics are shifting like crazy.
It's a lot to take in, for sure. But that's kind of the point of these deep dives, right?
Exactly. We're trying to connect the dots and help people make sense of it all. Because it's easy to get lost in the headlines and feel overwhelmed.
Totally. But when we understand these issues even a little bit better, we feel more empowered. Like we can actually do something about it.
Right, even if it's just starting a conversation or, just thinking about things a little differently.
Exactly.
So after hearing all of this, what's one thing that stood out to you? Like, what are you going to pay more attention to going forward?
That's a great question. For me, it's the cyber threats. It just seems like it's becoming more and more dangerous out there.
Yeah, I hear you. It's something we all need to be aware of.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, big thanks again to Alarms.Global for supporting this deep dive. They're a great resource for anyone who wants to stay informed, without having to spend hours reading news articles.
For sure. They keep things concise and to the point.
Yep, just like us. All right, everyone. That's it for today's deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time.